Hello and welcome to Boomer Banter. So the title for the show today is Keeping Love Alive, Overcoming Challenges in Long-Term Relationships as We Age. Boy, that's a mouthful of a title and an ambitious topic to cover in 45 minutes. But that is what we do on Boomer Banter. We have real talk about aging well, and having nourishing relationships is an important part of aging well. I believe that in long-term relationships, there must be love, but is it possible to reignite the spark, some of the interest, and some of the attention that made the relationship so special in the beginning? In today's episode, we're going to address the ups and downs of long-term relationships. We're going to talk about the toll that caring for an older relative or someone older in your family can have on the relationship. We're going to talk about our changing bodies and how intimacy may change as we age. And while we're at it, let's also throw in handling differences. Welcome to Boomer Banter, the podcast where we talk about real talk about aging well. My name is Wendy Green, and I am your host. And my guest today is Dr. Liz Jenkins. Dr. Liz helps couples reconnect, repair, and reignite their love, quickly transforming their relationships or marriages into their early years connection and passion. She is married for 38 plus years. Dr. Liz is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified connection coach with over 75,000 hours of focused time working with women and couples. She is a trusted expert who quickly identifies each couple's and individual's unique path to success in their self-love and their relationships. Dr. Liz is a featured podcast guest on many shows, and her true passion and her superpower is guiding couples to identify their unique path to relationship success. I am really looking forward to this episode, but before I bring Dr. Liz on, I want to invite you to join the Boomer Believers membership group. Boomer Believers is a way to stay connected and keep learning well after the podcast is over. We meet twice a month. On the first meeting, which is actually the second Tuesday of the month, we talk about the things that are on the minds of people in our age group. We've talked about humor. We've talked about relationships. We've talked about facing our fears. We've talked about lifelong learning and dealing with stress. And on the fourth Tuesday of the month, we meet with one of our guests from that month. And that is our chance to ask the questions that you were thinking about and didn't get to ask while the guest was on the show. So the Boomer Believers membership is only $25 a month, and you can sign up now by going to buymeacoffee.com/heyboomer0413. We are a great, supportive group of people, and I look forward to knowing more about you. And let's welcome Dr. Liz to the Boomer Banter. Hi, Dr. Liz.
Hey, Wendy, thank you so much, and all your listeners and folks. I am so thrilled to be here.
Well, I am very happy to have you here. Thank you. So I'm ready. Just let's dive in, okay?
Awesome.
Okay. So I was thinking about long-term relationships and the ups and downs. And, there's things like money stress and children stress and work stress and family stress. And in the boomer generation, it became a little bit more acceptable to end a relationship when the going got tough. So my question is, how do people hang in there when they're going through those disconnected times?
Well, that awesome question. And yes, it is. There was a certain time period almost an expectancy that we've hit our like run on this relationship, and there's nothing else that can be done about it. And I think some of it also goes back to a lack of information and an awareness of really what to be planning for and how to be anticipating, right? And so I love your group, with the Boomer Banter. I think that this really does kind of pull back the veil of many things that we don't really talk about. I don't know for you, but when, like in the early days when we were going to have a baby, then having a baby, there was tons of information flowing, offered, solicited and unsolicited, about how to raise a baby or what to expect as you're pregnant or as the baby's keeping you both up at night. But I don't see, and I didn't see a lot of accurate information for many of the couples that are coming to me years and years with each other. And so that's what I think one of the things that we're here is like, how do we and can we really stay together and have a great like second half or next half of this relationship? And the answer is absolutely yes. And so we can talk about some of that if you want me to share a little bit more about what that looks like.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
because I know that for myself, when things have gotten hard in the past,
Mhm.
I've been like, oh, I don't know if I can do this anymore. So what are some of the ideas that you have? I have a lot more questions, but let's stay with this
Okay.
one for a minute.
Okay. All right. Well, the first thing is recognizing that a lot of the original goals and things that maybe that brought the two of you together have changed or evolved. Maybe it was coming together and you're both focused on climbing career ladders or having children, or maybe the children came as a oops surprise, but you really dug down and the two of you came together and focused on it, and you successfully moved through that stage. But oftentimes when we're busy with life, we fail to plan or look ahead of what's coming, and or illnesses come. Suddenly you're forced into retirement or you're downsized from your job, and it wasn't on your list. And so successful couples know how to talk about these things, and they spend time regularly reconnecting and revisiting some of those. So think about the early days when both of you were young, curious. You had probably had more time. We spent more time probably asking questions of each other, sitting around and saying, "So how is you feeling? What's going on for you? I'm curious." So we want to get back into that place where instead of being this long-term couple that already knows what the other one's going to order when they go to the restaurant, or knowing what they aren't going to order, or, no go on that type of thing. We want to get back to those things where we stop doing the shortcuts, and we step back and say, okay, let's explore. And some of that means just really identifying maybe a rut that the two of you are in, or identifying that stop asking, how do you feel? And we also stop asking ourselves, what do I want? And how does my next tomorrow look like?
Yeah, so I tend to think that falls to the woman most of the time to start those conversations. And what do you do when the man is not interested in responding and having those kinds of conversations?
Okay. Well, guess what? From the inside, behind the screen, so to speak, I see many men as devoted or as interested, sometimes even more than their wives or the woman. So whichever side of the thing, if you're the curious one or you're the one that's feeling that urgency to move forward, instead of getting angry, which many of us do, we feel like, well, they're not meeting my needs, or they don't care, or I'm not a priority, or this marriage isn't a priority. We are actually making an incorrect assumption. Many times it's our perception, of
Mhm.
their activities. So we really want to step back a second and say, okay, if I'm the question maker, it's urgent to me. They aren't in my head and they aren't thinking what's going on. So it's my job, my role, is to bubble it up so they understand why it's so important for us to keep the Netflix off and talk about what retirement's going to look like, or Social Security, or the kids are finally out of the house, or the folks are finally out of the house. So it's the stuff that's keeping us up at night, and we need to be able to find a place and a space to do that. Now, like any great business meeting, and yeah, relationships are very much business at times, where we have budgets and we have things, expenditures and things we want to achieve, and growth, growth in kids, growth in income, pets in our world right now. We got it. It's fun, but we want to not ambush our partners. So, what's a good business meeting? We ask for a time. I say, hey, is tomorrow a good time after work, or Saturday morning a good time? We want to let them know a little bit what we want to talk about. I really want to talk about like where we're going now. You've retired maybe, and I'm thinking about that, and what does that look like? Or we've been in this house for X amount of years and I feel like it's too big, or whatever it might be. You give them a taste or a little bit of the agenda. The reason is you want the timing to be where they're rested and they're ready and available to talk to you about it. You want to give them the agenda so they also have a chance to catch up and get on the same page as you, or to get on a different page, but starting to think about it in their world. So they're coming prepared. And then the two of you sit down and you just kind of keep it open and flow and being curious of one another.
So that sounds very practical and problem solving related about the business side of the relationship, right? But what if your thing that you want to talk about is them? the way they're maybe they've retired and now they seem to just be sitting on the couch and doing nothing, and you're feeling like that's not good for them and you need them to get up and get moving or be more interesting. Or so now it's like,
Okay,
how do you do that without putting them on the defensive?
great. Good question. And you're very astute in that, because it would, if I were you and I said, Wendy, all you do is sit on the couch all day long. Ever since you retired, you're not getting up and doing things. And I think you've been sitting in that same beautiful blue blouse for the past 3 days. And what that comes across as criticism, right?
Right,
And
right.
like, well, I can see all this.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of, so we turn it into a concern, or maybe a complaint. And how we do that is we put it back on us, because okay, concern. It might be like, hey, Wendy, I'm really concerned about this transition for retirement. I'm worried because I see you on the couch often, not always, not, we don't want to use these absolute words like you're always on the couch. You never change out of that shirt. Okay, we try to avoid that. So we come from a worried or concerned, and we say what we see. I see you being different. It's not like you to just sit on the couch and watch TV. And it seems like since you retired, that's been one of your major activities. What's going on, or can I help?
Hmm.
And just like maybe it's no, or I didn't realize, or I've earned my chance to be on the couch and watch TV. It's like, okay, I get that. But here's more of my concern. I'm concerned that if this is how retirement goes, that both of us aren't going to be active enough or ready to go do some of the cool things that I thought we were going to do when we retire.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I've got 2 more years and then I'm retired. And my goal was that we were going to, I don't know,
Or travel, or
climb the
yeah,
mountains, go, get these cool bicycles and go on a road trip, whatever it might be.
right.
So you want to let them know a little bit about your concern with them, the impact it might be having on you, the fact that you also had some dreams or ideas of what retirement was, and it just doesn't feel like them, and you're here to help.
Yeah, Those are great suggestions. I think everybody needs to put this on repeat when you're dealing with those kinds of things.
Okay. Well, it really does help because it really is a different message because that's it, the ultimate bottom thing is you really are worried about them and you really are worried about you. Because if they become a permanent couch potato, pretend like that, or they have a depression that's increasing, or they're feeling lost and haven't found themselves, it isn't that you've been in this, 45 years in this marriage just to let this happen. So it is a partnership in that respect. And when you come from a place of concern, most people are willing to open up or hear what's going on,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
message.
So yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just as I said before, I think that women's a lot of times take the job of the nurturing the relationship. I also think women have been stereotyped as trying to change their partners,
Yes.
right? And I saw a post that you did that talks about making yourself into the partner your relationship needs. So are you saying we need to change ourselves into someone else? Like, help me understand what you meant by that.
Okay. We don't need to change ourselves into something that we aren't. All right. But what we want to do is be open to continually to evolve and improve and try new things because that is also what keeps us fresh and our relationship fresh. So if we've gotten into, or a relationship has gotten into the kind of rinse and repeat where I'm the one that's the heavy and I bubble up all the problems and all the issues, then we're really leaving the relationship one-sided as right. And we're also like being so effective. And I see this with very highly, I want to say efficient women is that they get so used to handling all of it. They sort of build their husband or their spouse out of a role. And so as children, things sort of decline or don't need it as much assistance, and the husband or spouse is around more often, then it feels even that point that the load feels unequal, and we're not feeling like there's a partnership. So change is sitting back and saying, where are you? What's going on? How do you see yourself? Do I need to carry all the load? Because that might have been actually a bad habit that doesn't need to be continuing.
Yeah.
Like I had one couple that they had been married for a very long period of time. She was still working, and he had come out of retirement and had a cool job opportunity. And they had made this switch, maybe 15 years ago, where they moved closer to be near her family, and now he wanted to have his turn and move, and it would be like a 2-hour drive difference. And at first it was looking like it was going to be a stalemate, no go, because she refused to to move. And so they came to me and we talked and we chatted, and they came up with a plan that allowed her to get a little more creative and see, who am I when I'm not 100% connected with my family, within speed dial and walking across the street kind of thing. So they came up with a plan, and they were going to give 2 years. They purchased a house up close where his new job was, and she had the opportunity that periodically through the month she would drive down and stay at her sister's and work remote from there and get that little family fix and come up. And so she started being able to evolve and see herself as a separate woman from that family, and more invested in also supporting her husband's dreams too. So
Yeah. So just by having those conversations and hearing each other's side.
Conversations, conflicts, tears, a lot of ultimatum kind of things that then gets retracted. Yeah, I mean, successful couples you have to know how to have a conflict and how to prepare from it instead of
Oof.
avoid it. So,
Yeah. Well, let me pause here for just a moment to
sure.
give a shout out to our sponsor, Road Scholar. Road Scholar is the not for profit leader in educational travel for boomers and beyond. And I love traveling with Road Scholar. I've been on 5 trips with them, and each one has been amazing. So, whether you're traveling abroad or in the US, or you think a river cruise may be your thing, check out Road Scholar first. You can go to road, scholar.org/heyboomer and book your next trip. All right,
That
let's
sounds
get
fun.
oh, it's great. I love Road Scholar. So let's get back to our
Yeah.
insightful discussion with Dr. Liz
Yeah.
Jenkins. And I actually have a question here from one of our listeners. She says, how do couples break the realization or the habit of codependency, especially when one or both of the couple has health issues that limit an imagined plan for the future?
Oh boy,
Ooh,
that yes. When you
big
have
question.
yeah, because well, one we want to talk about. Okay, when we talk about codependency, so maybe sitting back as objectively you can, or if you have some trusted people in your circle, asking them a little bit about how do you find that you over enable or over rely on each other or on the other person. That might be so we get a different set of eyes on what
Mhm,
has become automatic for us is one thing. um, the other thing is if you were to disrupt the schedule, let's say that you always get all the medicines lined up and you dispense them, the type of thing. And when they start to get up, you're already thinking ahead and you're pre planning. It might be like, what if you were to remove yourself from that picture, that part of it, and just start with it mentally? Both of you start with it mentally. You know, if my husband stopped making the medicines all available or didn't make things, my walker or my cane readily available, type of thing, what kind of anxiety, what kind of panic, what kind of worry would go through my head? And so we sort of mentally start thinking about that, because that's probably some of the cues that we're over reliant or we're overly helpful. And we tend to
mhm,
codependent. What is
mhm.
coming? We're extra helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what part of that could we safely dial back, or what part of it could we get uncomfortable and try it on our own? And that's part of like looking at those rituals or ruts and routines that we've become kind of stuck in and dependent on. I remember when one of our daughters had one of her back surgeries, and I was going to like get this and get this, and the physical therapist says, remember, they're going to need to hurt to heal a little bit.
Oof.
You know, and you're like, no, no,
Ooh, I
you
know.
know.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be harder to watch them struggle a little bit, but they
Mhm.
need to do that to be self-sufficient. And so that's as we age, right? We
Right,
need to be able to stumble over a word and not have someone fill it in. We
right.
need to be able to get out of our comfort zone and maybe go into a group, a new group of friends or new friends, or try a new hobby to continue to keep us stretching and becoming new people. And so talking about the roles that maybe that listener is, where there's a medical illness, what are you worried about, or what are they worried about, and how much really is requires hands-on, absolute 24 hours assistance in nursing? And do you maybe, finances permitting, actually need somebody else that could come in occasionally and do some of that? So or train the other person. And I guess then also there's a caregiver and there's a caretaker, right? And so when we're looking at longer term illnesses, a caregiver at first is just handling some things like that, but the caretaker is really like overarching. controlling finances, foods, purchases, everything. And is that the role that one of you needs to be in at this point in time, or are we jumping in a little too early?
Taking on too much.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And you know that there's going to be pushback, because if you change the rules of the
Yeah,
relationship or the rut that you're in, as you say, it gets a little bit
it gets dicey.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Right. But it's not sexy being somebody's, parenting kind of thing. That's not, many times it is necessary, important, short term or long term. Got it. But it does something on the mind and the relationship when it moves us from being kind of equals and sexy and spicy and interesting to more ones, heavy and there's a dependency. So,
Right. Right. So I'm glad you brought up sexy, because I want to go there.
okay.
And I want to talk about intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
So as we age, our bodies change, right? We don't have that 20-year-old sexy body anymore. We may not be comfortable with sex at all anymore, or we may be bored with the same old, and so we've let that intimacy lapse. So how do we keep intimacy alive in a long-term relationship as we age?
All good questions and all real situations. Some people want to be intimate, like I said, but they either physically can't, or it's uncomfortable, or it's like, the desire has dropped, hormone levels have dropped. Other folks want to, but they're really just not proud or comfortable with the way that they look. Or many times, like I said, some people have gotten a little heavier, and so, and maybe there's a little bit more knee replacement going on. And so we aren't perhaps as athletic. Although, man, I've been seeing some of these men and women on. Wow, they were working out. Like, man, they put me to shame. I've got to up my game there on this 100-year-old gal that's winning all these sprints and races and stuff. So,
Yeah.
so it's never too never. So I guess one of the things is intimacy really does start outside the bedroom, and if we're bored, or we're in these, we talk about the caretaker, the caregiver roles and things, it's going to be very difficult to get that spice going on. And if you've come from maybe a drought where you had a lot of kids coming in and out, or financial stresses or illnesses, understand that where you are isn't bad, and it's not a sign of, are you guys not a good match? I really want to emphasize that is not, that let's, okay, well, we got to end this one because obviously we don't click anymore. A lot of different factors that come into it. Having the interest or having the desire of wanting to be closer to each other requires being deliberate. It is not something that you just can, like, oh, well, I hope it happens. It means getting more excitement and interesting things going on for yourself first. You got to kick up yourself. Maybe it's looking at your wardrobe. Are you still wearing the same, black jacket that you always wore, and it's a 15-year-old jacket? Maybe there's a time that we need to change up some of our style, but that in itself has us feeling and looking differently. Starting to do things together that are new, coming up with a new hobby, new sort of interests, working out together. All of those things start to increase our satisfaction and increase our energy level and make life a little bit more interesting. There was a study, and I don't know if I shared it with you before, but researchers took the couples into a room, set them on this couch, and had them fill out a relationship satisfaction questionnaire. Sent them out, put them on an obstacle course, tied the legs together, they had to hop around, crawl around, throw them back on the same couch, gave them the same assessment, and 100% of those people, after the obstacle race course, they rated their relationship satisfaction much higher. It was statistically, it was just like night and day.
Because they were working together.
working together, doing something novel,
Fun.
laughing, falling, yeah, getting the adrenaline going. That is simple. And so it doesn't have to cost anything, guys, to get some of that fun back into your relationship. And so instead of aging and getting more serious, maybe we start aging and being more playful and fun like we were in the early years or as we were as kids. And so that's one of the homework things to get that going back into the bedroom. It's really also having some conversations and also maybe educating yourself. If there's a problem with desire, you know, either person saying maybe meeting with your medical professional around that. If there's all sorts of things now that we know with physical therapy for women that are maybe experiencing pain or discomfort with intercourse, or bladders and things are dropping. But there are the physical therapy that helps improve that and reduces that. So I think people really want to step into the age of information and feel checking with reliable sources, but finding ways to, one, where are we physically and what can we do to improve that? And then two, having some candid conversations about, like, I just don't feel as pretty as I did, and my wrinkles so great. So what do you wear that might be differently? How are the lighting? No lights, some lights.
Right, right. And I think intimacy is more than just the sexual act, so I think that you can find ways to care for each other and
Absolutely.
be close and pleasurable together. And if intercourse isn't the thing, there,
Yeah, no,
right?
that's not always, and not as often as people think. And I think that's one of the myths, and people come like, well, how much and how often are people actually doing this? It's like completely across the spectrum, and the numbers vary. But what really matters is it right for you? Is it right
Right
for
for you.
your partner? And is it right for the relationship? So we can forget the numbers and just say, are you having fun with
Yeah.
whatever that you're doing? And many of my folks talk about some of the best times were just when maybe they woke up or they took an afternoon nap and crawled into each other's arms and just talked and held each other, and it was very much like the early days.
Yeah. Yeah, those are nice times.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I'm glad you were talking about fun, because you have something that you do, well, two things that you do that really, I think, bring out the fun. I loved them. So if you'll talk more about them. One is the texts that you suggest you send to your partner periodically, and your flirty Fridays. I think
Okay.
those are such fun, cute ideas. So would you talk more about them?
Oh, sure. See, we're talking about those are really like, those are free, right? So it's not about a budget. So everybody thinks budget, oh God, date nights. I'm like, no. And if people need free date night ideas at home and stuff like that, I've got a
We're
whole,
gonna, yeah.
yeah, okay. So the text, one of the ways to keep that spark alive is that you send them something that's fun and nice. You ask how they're doing and how they're feeling. So this is the one time I say, get in there and embrace technology. It's fun to just simply have something. They're thinking about me, or they're asking like, how's it going? Or, did you nail that interview, or whatever might be. Or as soon as you get home, I can hardly wait for you to fill me in, or I've got dinner waiting. It's really just keeping touch in that connection, because that's what really makes strong couples, is that we do stay in touch with the pulse of each other. And the flirty Fridays, well, you want to start setting the stage, right? That's where the heads are going, ooh, we're going to do this. We are humans. We love to anticipate. I mean, that's why we have holidays, and that's why it's on the calendar, and ooh, only, so many more days right now, right? 10 more days, and we're going to have, Halloween for those people that celebrate Halloween. Ooh, where's going to be? Look at this costume, or this is, we have this kind of candy, or look at what the neighbors are doing. And so that's part of that anticipation. Anticipation breeds interest and energy. And again, there's that little uptick from regular days. And so say something fun, what you're looking forward to. Start to plan something out. Give them a compliment. Compliments are huge.
Oh yeah. And what if you have like routines that you do. Like my partner and I, we like to play pool on Sunday nights. That's
Oh,
our little
okay.
thing to do, or
I love it.
share gratitudes or something. So,
Mhm.
what do you think? Does that get stale, or do you like the idea of having like regular things that you look forward to?
I love regular things, rituals of connection, traditions. Those are grounding for a relationship and for a couple. And as humans, that builds the sense of being known and being heard. And so, pool is something you guys look forward to, you have fun. And it would probably feel really awkward if, when those days when you can't do that, or disappointing, like, oh, I missed that, but that's
I
okay, we
know.
got it next. Okay, so if you haven't created these rituals connection, and I'm guessing a lot of people do, sometimes they're negative.
Mm,
So let's do the fun ones. Let's say, how do we check in with each other? How do we compliment? What is something that you want to do, and put it on the calendar, put it on your, your watch, your phone, make a note so that it's a new habit, a good habit that keeps coming up. I don't know, for a lot of folks that maybe aren't in the boomers, but I grew up in the age where the TV guide came out. Okay, we're building anticipation. If you wanted to watch this movie, or there was the regular show, it only came out, say, at Tuesdays at 8 o'clock.
right.
If you weren't there, you missed it. So we carved out time, right? We got things done ahead of time, or prep dinner or whatever, but the world stopped so we could watch it. And that was something that my husband and I, we had a couple TV shows that we really looked forward to, and that was our nights.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know? And so find that something that's like, that's our thing, that's our night, whatever it is.
I like that too. Yeah, we used to do some of that. So one more thing, I think one of the challenges that we face as we get older and we're in relationships is some of our responsibilities to aging family members, or if you in a blended family, to kids that are yours but not your spouse's, and so we could end up struggling with some guilt, like, am I giving enough time to this part of my family, and now I'm taking time away from my relationship, or am I
Mm-hmm.
giving enough time to my relationship and taking time away? So that all that guilt, and yeah, how do you deal with finding the right balance with that?
It's ever changing. Yes, absolutely. You're talking about one thing that's called like the sandwich generation, where we might even have, depending upon our, blended families, whatnot, we might even have some kids in the house, or we might have ones that boomerang back and forth. They go out, they come back. So we have these decide. And then we have, if we're so fortunate, we still have our aging parents or aging relatives who really do require some time, attention, dependent upon their needs. And so you do feel like, okay, because also for a lot of us folks, we're still working. So we have our home to run, our relationship to be involved in, our careers or work, and then we have these pulls on. And I want to say there isn't a clear cut answer. It really does, again, go where, what your life and what your demands are. And so you and your spouse can sit down and talk about, here's I'm feeling stretched. Okay, it's like, I'm feeling super stretched. I feel like I go 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 go. Kids are all great in their world and their lunch, but say I have elderly parents that I'm worrying about, and they're constantly calling me, needing me this, and so the weekend isn't my weekend because I have to take them on their weekly shopping, whatever it might be. So we really start talking about the stressors that even makes us feel guilty for
Mhm.
saying that. Okay, I'm so sick of having to take my uncle to the market every Saturday, and he just wants to go so slow, look at every item. And so we want to talk about that. And then we start to strategize around, is that necessary, or is there someone else, or is there another option, or is it really my uncle would be just as happy with us visiting than going out, or we want to get to some of the, like the underlying reasons why it's every Saturday. And also we want to talk to ourselves, get to ourselves, like, what is it that's having me sacrifice my life, literally, because every Saturday that's going to be a 3-hour grocery shopping trip and I can't get to my stuff. So when I come back home, all my stuff is waiting there, and my husband gets neglected or drops through, or the resentment builds. And part of it is getting creative. Part of it, you talked about that codependency type of thing, is really to what is driving that. I think your support group and your Boomer Banters is a really great place, a forum to talk about those shared burdens.
Mm-hmm.
Also coming up with some really tough decisions. The one thing is that we love the people around, the other people in our life, and we also feel responsible at times, and sometimes we feel guilty if at some level that we aren't doing 150% of what they need. We've also maybe built them into being overly reliant or having an unrealistic expectation of us that we can do it before, but we can't do it now. And so
Or
it
we
makes,
have an unrealistic expectation of ourselves of what we
yeah,
should be doing.
right. What's a good niece? Okay. What's a good mom or husband or parent, child to a adult parent? Absolutely. So it's really doing some soul searching. Just identify them. You don't have to change anything. You can start to, sort that out. If you're feeling guilty about doing something or not doing something, that may be your flag that you're responding to somebody else's message or some inaccurate message that you set for yourself. And so part of it is, okay, that's a good thing. I'm feeling guilty. I just thought I'm going to say no to my uncle, or I'm not going to host Thanksgiving this year. I just wanted, like, don't want to spend that day in the kitchen, and I'm feeling really guilty. Boom, bang. All right, that's a perfect spot. That's probably one of those expectations that needs to be changed, shifted. The way Thanksgiving happens, if it happens at all, gets addressed so that it makes more sense for you now.
Yeah, that's
Um, and
all
again,
kinds of good stuff. So before I let you go, I do want you to mention the 2 giveaways on your website, and then I want you to share a couple of takeaways. I mean, we could talk for
oh gosh,
hours. We could talk for hours, but
I do. I do. Okay. Okay. And so, all right. The first thing is you want to reach out to me. It's drlizjenkins.com. All right. And on my website, there is a free couples connection quiz. You fill it out. It comes back to me, and we can chat about exactly where both of you are and what the strengths are about your relationship and where are the challenges, so we can get you guys back on track, that objective set of eyes. That's completely complimentary. And the other one is my couples cheat sheet. And this is what I highly, highly recommend, is you do to daily, weekly, and monthly ways to stay connected or get reconnected with each other, because we really want to build that love, feeling being heard, feeling that connection that they know you and you know them, plus fun and flirty. And it's a very good way to stay on track and not let maybe things that have been bothering build up for very long. So it's again, it's free, it's complimentary.
and it's on drlizjenkins.com. So I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I have this it's cool idea for those people that are retiring. And oh yes, and my email at drlizjenkins.com. I'm here. I'd love to chat with you guys too. You see, I have lots to share. I guess you guys are dialing me back there, Wendy. But as we're going through anything, and we're going to plan, and we talk about anticipation. Has one cool gal that was looking at retirement, felt like forever, but she'd heard that sometimes it sneaks up on you. So she took 5 clear jars and she put 12 beautiful blue stones in each of them and put them in her window. And every month, at the end of the month, she took one of those stones out and put it in a big jar over there. And that helped her track and start to mentally prepare. Now it's 4.5 years. Now it's 4 years now, all the way till she was at retirement. She was much better prepared emotionally. So was the people in her world. She had able to downsize, and she had already had a chance to plan what that next part would look like. So whether you're looking at retirement, or you're looking at maybe moving, or trying a new career, having some way where the two of you can come together and track it and grow together in this next phase is part of what makes that successful couple stay successful long term.
Dr. Liz, so much you shared with us in 45 minutes just flew by. So thank you for that. I do want to wind up the month by talking about what's coming up in the last week of October. And our discussions have been about relationships, but this time we're going to switch to the topic of our relationships with our pets, particularly dogs.
Oh boy.
My guest next week is Stacy Colino, and she is the co-author of a book titled The Purest Bond: Understanding the Human Canine Connection. And Stacy is an award-winning writer specializing in science, health, and psychological issues, and the lover of dogs. So we're going to explore the science and emotions behind owning a dog and the impacts this relationship can have for us as we age. I also hope that I will see you in the Boomer Banter and the Boomer Believers meetings. Go to buymeacoffee.com/HeyBoomer0413. And just as a little teaser, Dr. Liz is going to be our guest on this Boomer Believer, which is going to be a week from tomorrow. So bring all your questions that didn't get answered today, because I know there's a lot to talk about in this area. And don't forget to check out Road Scholar and go to roadscholar.org/heyboomer and sign up for your next trip. Thank you so much, Dr. Liz, for being our guest today. This has been very helpful.
Thank you. I always love having a chance to meet new people and ask questions. And Wendy, you're just such a great host and great person in my world now. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's stay in touch. You'll be back.